Welcome to the Wealth by Choice podcast. My name is Valerie Shirah, and I'm a stay-at-home mom who turned entrepreneur. Each week, we bring you stories and wisdom from individuals who have broken the code to generating wealth. Thanks so much for being here with me today. Let's get started. Hey, welcome today to the Wealth by Choice podcast. I'm here with Lee Yoder. Lee was a practicing physical therapist when he realized his true passion was building his own business and investing in real estate. Today, Lee is focusing on syndicating larger apartment buildings and is the founder and visionary behind Threefold Real Estate Investing. Lee is committed to his God-given gifts to forge a path that will generate incredible opportunities for all involved. His focus is on driving the business forward by establishing new relationships with top-notch professionals in the real estate world and bringing on more partners to invest along Threefold. Lee also hosts a podcast, Threefold Real Estate Investing. Lee and his wife Hannah currently reside in Ohio with their 2 children and many farm animals. When he's not working in real estate, Lee enjoys spending time with his family, working to build their homestead, cheering on the Buckeyes and the Bengals. Lee is a man of faith whose greatest desire is to reflect God to his family, within his business, and to all of those that God places in his life. Lee, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm excited to have you.
Yeah, Valerie, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so just reading your bio, I've got to ask, the homesteading and the animals, what do you have going on there? That sounds so interesting.
Yeah, I grew up on a farm. My wife did not. She grew up in Cincinnati, in the city, but she is a farm girl at heart, and she really is the one that drives it. But we've just got a little bit of land, like 5 acres, and we've lost a couple, but we added some. I think we have 18 chickens, maybe 17 chickens. We've got a couple pigs. We've got a cat that kills all the rodents on our property, does a great job. And that's it. We had some bees, but they left us. So we'd like to get more, but that's all we've got for right now. Just most chickens and pigs.
That's awesome. Yeah, I grew up, I wouldn't say farm, but we always had animals. And homesteading is something that we did for a while. And we're transitioning to North Carolina right now. But, yep, we've done the chickens and the pigs and some even bottle feeder cows, which I keep saying I would never do again.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of work.
But hey, let's talk about like the whole financial freedom and the generating wealth and the real estate. That's what the podcast is about, and that's what I'm really interested in. My first question is kind of the big picture. What got you even started? What made you pursue this path of something, I would call it like alternative, like the real estate path? What started all that?
Yeah, I'm actually a physical therapist by trade. So I graduated from physical therapy school. Went to college for 7 years to get my doctorate in physical therapy. Graduated in 2012. Did that for a little bit. At one point, I was doing home health physical therapy, and that was a great job for the family. I had a ton of flexibility. My patients would just come to my phone, and I could schedule them kind of whenever I wanted. Like, it needed to work for them, obviously, but for me to get a day off or half day off was super easy. I got paid by the visit, so my company had no reason to care when I did the visits, as long as I did them, as long as I got them done, as long as it worked for the patient. So lots of flexibility. The problem for me, Valerie, God didn't create me for a job like that. I don't think. I just got really bored. It wasn't like challenging enough or fulfilling for me. So the company I was with was actually a startup company, and they were actually a startup staffing company. I was just, one of the staff on full time with them. Kind of a contract worker for them. So I came in the office, became the clinical director, started moving more toward like a director of operations role, and pretty quickly was doing no physical therapy. But now I'm like on the opposite end of the spectrum. I love my job. It's very challenging and fulfilling. This startup company, it was like just exciting and fun. Now it's not so great for the family. Now I don't have the flexibility. Now I'm at work a lot, and they want me there more, and I'm moving toward this promotion, kind of just the typical climbing the corporate ladder, and it's like, yeah, you're going to need to be here more when you take this promotion. So, we just felt like that's not what God was calling me to and our family to either. Now we have 2 young kids, and we're just getting our family started, and we didn't want to just have to build our family around my work schedule. My wife, she's an RN, and she was PRN at the time, just working, once every week or 2. But it just felt like, I'm just going down this path where I'm just going to be able to give my leftover hours to the family and our schedule is going to be controlled by my job. And, I'm painting a pretty dark picture. I think that works for some people. But, yeah, for us, we were like, we want something different. So we started going on that journey that you kind of alluded to, like, maybe we didn't even know the term financial independence back then, honestly. But it was like, what else is there? What are my options? Because I felt like, are my only two options just to do a job I don't enjoy, that's not challenging and fulfilling, but it's good for the family, or I go do this job that I like, but it's not good for the family? Are those my only two options? So I started looking, started reading books, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and some others, and felt like, all right, there's other options. There's another way. There's people out there that are, the way I saw it, Valerie, when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I was like, there's a different game. So right now I'm playing the game that almost everybody plays, and I feel like I've got two options, job that's great for the family, but I don't like it. Job that I like, but it's not good for the family. There's another game. I can play this different game. And for me, it was like entrepreneurship, specifically real estate. But I thought, I got to go try this. I got to see if this is real. I'm a risk taker. I'm a go-getter, kind of to a fault. Like I would say I'm ambitious, but it's almost, kind of to a fault. But I was like, I got to try this. So in 2016, just 4 years after graduating, I said, well, I'm going to go back to home health, physical therapy, which again, job that I don't love, but it's a job where I have a lot of flexibility, a lot of margin. So I'll do real estate on the side. I'll start a real estate side hustle. And so that's what I did at the end of 2016 to get my journey started.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's kind of a little bit of everything there. Like you said, you've got those two different positions, and it is amazing that you were able to see that there were other options. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people, they just do it until they retire. I mean, it's like what you do here in America, and a lot of people don't realize they have options. So that's really something to be thankful for. Like.
Oh, for sure.
But anyways, when you kind of were looking into a completely different path, was wealth part of that? Like what does wealth mean to you? Was that something that you were after? Was it just financial freedom? What were your goals? Other than obviously replace your income, but maybe talk a little bit about that. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of people, Valerie. Just the time freedom was huge. But yeah, and I mean, a lot of people say this too. I have no interest in retiring at any point. But I do have a lot of interest in working when I want to work, which for me is always going to be like, 40 to 50 hours a week. But not some weeks, and I want to be able to work from where I want to work from. And it might be, I typically wake up on most weekend mornings and I'm up really early and the kids aren't up, and I like to work and I want to check on real estate. And like one of my favorite things to do is look for properties. So before I was in real estate, I would look for like houses that we might buy. And then once I found about flipping, I loved looking at houses that we might flip. And now I love looking at apartment buildings. So I want to be able to do that stuff, but I want to do it when it makes sense for our family. And so that's what it was for me. Building wealth, absolutely. Of course, I want to build wealth for my family. I want us to be able to take fun trips and stuff like that. But there's a lot more to it. We want to be able to give generously. We want to see what God can do with our business so that we can bless others. So there's a lot of drive there. And then honestly, Valerie, I've just always had a drive to build wealth, and I don't even know what I'm going to do with it. So for me, I've heard people say like, wealth is like just this scoreboard. It is a way to keep score. And that's the truth for me. Like I'm just interested in running up the score just because it's really fun. Like it's challenging, it's fun, and I think we can do great things with it. And I just want to do it. So kind of a lot of facets for me, a lot of reasons I want to get into it, but certainly the time freedom is big. I really love working, so I want to work, but I want to do it when it makes sense for me and my family.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the same for us. My listeners know kind of our story, with my husband getting Parkinson's and transitioning into real estate from his W-2, kind of replacing that. But there comes a point where, you replace it, it's like, okay, that's great, but you're in this world, you keep going. Once you kind of transition into this, like the real estate and the self-development, there is no end game. It's continue to improve yourself. And yep. That's something else that I believe, as Christians, as my husband and I believe that God wants us to develop our gifts. He gave them to us, not to sit on them. idly, but to really
Yep.
develop them and use them and become stronger in them. So that's another way that we really look at
I agree.
pushing further. Maybe we can push further than what we need so that we can bless others. That's a
Yep.
huge part
Yeah.
of what we're wanting to do with, the stuff that we're able to kind of create. Now,
We feel the same
yeah.
way, right?
In the beginning, what did you do in the beginning? What did that real estate journey look like for you? Did you just like buy a single family? Did you get into multifamily from the start? How'd that look like?
Yeah, Valerie, good question. I think we started like a lot of people. We started with a flip. I think pretty early on, I knew I wanted to get into multifamily. Listening to Bigger Pockets early on and all the other podcasts. The guys and girls that were on there that were doing multifamily and doing the apartments. I think I really identified with them and kind of had it picked out pretty early. Like, okay, I want to be like you. I want to be doing that. But just felt like, and I think rightly so. Like, I can't just go buy an apartment now. Now maybe I could have started with a duplex or a quad or something, but jumped into a single family flip, local, like just literally 5 minutes down the road, bought it on an online auction, and jumped all in, did a ton of the work myself. And it was honestly, I think God gave us like this really great picture. Because I heard people say flipping's not investing. It's just a job. That was absolutely true for us. I took a pretty good pay cut when I left the corporate job and went back to home health. Probably like a $30,000 pay cut. And then we did this flip, and that's about what we made on the flip. But I was working a full-time, home health physical therapy. And like I said, I wasn't that busy. But adding a flip on top of it where I'm doing a ton of the work myself, I was really busy during that time. So it took us 9 months to do the flip because we were doing so much of the work ourselves. In the last 4 months or 5 months, depending on who you ask, myself or my wife, got really, really busy. And it was like being back at the corporate job. So it was like just this perfect picture of, all right, I dropped one job that was way too busy, and then I took a job that, great, not busy, but I added a flip on top of it, and we just made back the money that I lost from leaving that really busy job. But I'll say, Valerie, I'm not mad that I did it because it got us into real estate, and we did make some money, so there's a little proof of concept there. But the negative was I also sold my wife on this idea that real estate would improve our lives. Because it was like this thing called passive income and residual income and all this, and I did not prove that to her. So she's like, okay, yeah, real estate makes money, but it made our life worse, not better, while we were doing real estate. So we decided to do something different, and so we jumped into a flip. Also bought that on an auction. We got that at the county auction. Basically, that was a flip too, but we had a little bit more of a cushion because we were able to take that money we made off the flip, and we didn't need it because I had the full-time job, and that was paying our expenses. So we rolled that into the duplex. And the other thing I'll say here, we were using our home equity line of credit. So that's a great way people can, kind of use equity to get started. Now the interest rates stink on home equity line of credits right now, but they were good back then. So we're using that, used the profit from the flip, did a duplex, basically flipped it because we didn't even own it a year. But for like 3 or 4 months, we were renting it to 2 renters. And we saw that proof of concept to say, wow, we're making money every month. As long as we can keep this property full, we're going to make money forever. Very different than the flip. And it's like, this is investing. This is what we want to do more of. But I don't want to buy, 20 duplexes because maybe we're making like $4,000 a year and I'm going to make 80 a year off our rental. So that's 20 duplexes that we need to make or that we need to own, right? To make 80 grand a year. So I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to scale up a little bit bigger, but I'll stop there. But that's a little bit of how we got started into real estate.
Yeah, and I can so relate to what you said. As far as you're thinking you're going to save time, it's going to improve your life, and then you get into it, and it's like does not. It makes it so much harder.
Yep.
Maybe we could talk a little
Right.
bit about that because we struggled with it too when we got into our first deal, which was a fourplex. We flipped 2 houses, got into a fourplex, got into a couple duplexes. And then we were so busy, and it was just so hard. And with the flips, we were taking the kids. I mean, I had babies, put my baby in the playpen, so I'm painting. Yeah. My kids are ripping out carpet, and I just said to my husband, I don't ever want to do this again. This is not what I envisioned. But I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't go back and undo it. It did get us in the game. It got us to understand what we don't want so that we can better, visualize what we do want. But how did you not lose your family in that? How did you guys still figure out, like, maybe what's most important or what did your family life look like that and how did you survive that?
Yeah, great question. My wife and I, she's a great communicator and she is the one I'm so blessed to have her because she really pushes us to communicate all the time. And sometimes I don't want to do it in the moment, but I'm so blessed by it. Communication is huge. So we talked a lot about it. She is very risk adverse. She was not sold on real estate. So it was like, let's start slow. And I'll tell you that one of the other great things she's done for us, Valerie, is she has really slowed us down. So after that flip, she's like, Lee, that wasn't good. That was, like I said, it was like, that was not what you told me real estate was going to be like. Like you talked about passive investing. There was nothing passive about that, right? So let's not do that again real soon. So we did do a second one. And I said, yeah, you're right. I mean, after being mad about it, because, I mean, I'm the type of person, as soon as we had that first flip going, I was like, let's get the next one. And she's, no, we're not doing that. And so thank God she did that and slowed us down, because we just did the one flip and then we jumped into duplex. And actually from the duplex, and I'll wait, but we'll get this, but the next one was a 16 unit. So we did scale pretty quick, but it's really mostly thanks to her. Thanks to me, I'm the one that pushes us in, and she's the one that hits the brake and says, let's think about this. And so we've taken far fewer steps than I wanted to take, but they've been much bigger steps because my wife forces us to slow down and think about it. And so it's been a great combination. It's really infuriating for both of us at times, but we can see, especially in retrospect, why God put us together. I mean, for so many reasons outside of real estate, but even for real estate, he had a plan here, and it's been great. Communication has been huge. We've just, I think what a lot of people talk about, Valerie, I know you have a strong why, you and your husband and your family with his diagnosis. We don't have something like that, but we have a strong why. We serve the same God, and we have a why around that, but, we value our family and our time just like you guys do. So we've always talked about that from the beginning, and we've said, we want real estate to work for our family, not the other way around. And if we're going to get into real estate and we're going to be entrepreneurs, it's got to be good for our family. It's got to be a benefit to our family. So if it was or wasn't, like, we were taking notes about that and okay, what do we got to do different? So as we're jumping in and it's not good for the family, that was an immediate red flag to say, we got to pivot. We got to go in a different direction. So there were definitely some hard times. So I would say my wife would say during the flip was one of her low points in our marriage and her entire life. Maybe just now, not just because of me, but because having young kids is really difficult. But same stories that you told, like bringing young kids out to the flip, and she wants to be there, she wants to be a part of it, but like, yeah, my son was 2, and he was a terrible 2-year-old, like most 2-year-olds, and especially most 2-year-old boys. And so it just didn't work having him out there. So it was tough. What saved it for us is we said, let's stop. Again, mostly my wife leading that. Let's stop. Let's not do this again. Let's take account of what's going on here. That was not what we want for our family. So we may have made some money, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for an improvement in our family's life. That comes first. So we're not going to go make another $30,000 on a flip if it's going to look like that. And so what else can we do? So communication and taking a step back and making sure that we are working toward our why and not just getting into real estate and making money. It's got to work for our family and got to be moving us toward our why.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And, bringing up the differences between you and your wife, it just does make me think a lot of times you can magnify those differences, or you can look at them and say, how can they make us stronger? How can we use them to our advantage? Yeah. And that's the same with situations. We had, even like coming down here, we were supposed to be staying in a camper. We have a gorgeous fifth wheel camper, and we came down, had some issues with it. It's being repaired. I'm staying in this in a house we're kind of renting for the times. It's just like so many things that were not planned for us, not what we envisioned, but how can we use it? How can we take that? So it looks like you did a lot of that in your life, and that's really, really cool to see that from retrospect. Never cool in the moment.
Yeah. Much easier. Yeah. Yes.
Now, how did you transition then? So you do syndications now. You do big deals. How did you kind of come from that? Was it just the discomfort from doing those little things yourself that kind of pushed you into the bigger deals?
Well, one thing is what you mentioned, Valerie, that you kind of get in and you get like so busy. Managing your own properties will make you very busy very quickly, and I heard that on podcasts, and so. And then we managed that duplex, and we weren't busy managing the duplex. We had 2 great residents. It was in our town, and they were great. But like it felt heavy because especially for my wife, like she just worried about it. Like she just kind of like worst case scenario, like it's going to flood and we're going to get a call. And not only like, is our property going to flood, but like, oh my gosh, we have people living there, like poor them, so she just had this anxiety about it. And I didn't enjoy it. And so we just kind of knew, and again, just listening to podcasts like yours, Valerie, and hearing stories like yours, and you use virtual assistants, and I love that idea to like, you don't want to be so busy, but having that duplex, we just knew if we're going to scale, we're going to get really busy really fast if we're managing our own property. So that was my drive to get into bigger properties, because the larger the property, it's typically easier to manage for third-party property management, and it typically makes more financial sense. So we knew we wanted to scale. How do we do that? I got a mentor. I started networking. I joined the local RIA, the Real Estate Investment Association here in Cincinnati. There was a guy leading an apartment focus group in the Cincinnati RIA. So he was basically teaching all of us once a month how to underwrite multifamily properties, how to make offers, how to manage them, how to find a property manager. And so he really helped me. I mean, he helped me a lot. I was underwriting using his, simple spreadsheet underwriting tool, and, finding properties on LoopNet, where people say deals go to die. And I'm like, well, that's probably where I'm going to find a deal then, because, what broker is going to send me a deal? So, send him deals, send him a 16 unit, said, hey, I think this is a good deal. It's 20 minutes up the road. What do you think? He said, yep, your underwriting looks good to me. I said, okay, how do I make an offer? He said, here, send in this LOI, make an offer. We did that. Eventually got that accepted. I said, okay, they just sent me a contract. Mark, what do I do? He goes, I'll look through it with you. So he just really helped me, Valerie. I would not have gotten that property without him. I ended up giving him 10% of the property just for helping me, and I wanted him to continue to help me, so he came out for the inspection. So that was huge. I may have paid for a coach or a mentor, but, man, if you can find somebody local, there's no substitute for that, because, again, like I said, he came to the inspection with me, walked the property with me, stuff like that. So that's a huge part of how I got it. And then my other partner was the property management company. Taking on a 16 unit and managing it just seemed like so overwhelming for us. Like I said, an easy duplex we didn't like. So what are we going to do with a 16 unit? It just honestly felt like climbing Mount Everest. But I talked to a property management company that was highly recommended by several investors, and they're managing 1,000 units in Dayton, Ohio, where we found this property, just outside of Dayton. And so it was like, wow, this is going to be easy for them. So suddenly it didn't feel like such a big deal, because I'm not managing it. Somebody is that manages 1,000 units. 16 units is a walk in the park. So that really helps. So having a mentor, having a property manager, those things really help. So we got that one, and we knocked that one down. Out in the valley, you've heard other people talk about the law of the first deal, and how sometimes it's so difficult to get that first one. And I really felt that in multifamily. It was such a big deal for us to get that 16 unit. But as soon as we did, and again, the property management comes in, hands out notices, starts collecting rent, tells us, hey, we collected all the rent, we're paying all the expenses. I'm like, okay, yeah, we can do this again. And so it was literally the law. You want to see the law of first deal in action. The day we were closing on the 16 unit, we literally are closing. We go with my wife's parents. They were our first investor, and we're having a dinner to like kind of celebrate. And I put an offer in during dinner on an 8 unit, and we end up getting that. And so that, my wife wasn't thrilled about that. That did not go over real well, but it was an amazing deal. So good thing we did. But we got that an 8 unit, and then literally a month and a half after closing on that 8 unit, we got a 10 unit. So we got 34 units pretty quick. Again, that same property management, managing all of them and kind of just running the same playbook. So mentor, third-party property management company is how we were able to get into multifamily. So that was a small multifamily. We sold all of those and then got into syndication after that.
Wow. Okay, so listening to that, you're talking about mentors, third-party management. The one word that comes to my mind is leverage. You're really maximizing your relationships, your time, your skills. That's something that I didn't realize in the beginning. I come from a construction background, and when we were growing up, everything was, let's do it ourselves to save money. And so for years, you think you save money by doing it yourself, but in reality, it's costing you more in the long run, because you can only do so much. Your time, it's just basically having no regard for your time. And when you think about it, your time is one of your most valuable assets. If you're out of time, you have nothing left. So That was
Yep.
something that I really had a shift in my mind to what can I get
Oh,
off
for
of my
sure.
plate? That's what you mentioned earlier, the virtual assistants. That was one of them. What can I get off my plate? Give to a virtual assistant. Same thing for you. You don't like management. How can we get this off our plate so you can do what you do best? Buy buildings.
Yep.
And I love that. I love that. That's
Yeah, and we knew we wanted to go bigger about it. So like looking at a 16 unit, if it was up to my wife and I, we wouldn't have done it. I mean, we couldn't have. So it wasn't even like we got something and then it was like, oh my goodness, this is way too much. It was like beforehand, we would not have done a 16 unit. It would have been way too much to go and get a 16 unit. So I think there are a lot of people, like you just said, Valerie, they're sitting there going, oh, I could never do a 16 unit. Well, yeah, you couldn't by yourself.
right.
But again, if you find a property management company that's managing 1,000 units in that city, you think they couldn't do it? So now you can do it if you leverage other people. So that was, yeah, our mindset even before taking on was like, we cannot do a 16 unit by ourselves. But if we leverage other people, then maybe we can, and we could.
And even your parents or your wife's parents, you mentioned them being in there. Well, that's leveraging
Yeah.
money. I mean, a lot of people say,
Yep.
well, I couldn't
Oh
even
yeah.
buy a single family. I don't have the
Yep.
money. How can you leverage it? How can you get those pieces that you're missing? And if you can
Yes.
just put the
They're
puzzle
out there.
together, there's value in
Yeah, it's
that.
out
And a
there
lot of people don't understand that.
for sure.
Now,
Yep.
one thing I like to ask is, are there any books or trainings that you kind of went through that you'd really recommend to either somebody starting out or maybe somebody who's been doing it for a while? Things that really were game changers for you. I see the Rich Dad Poor Dad behind you, and you mentioned it. What else? What other things have you studied?
Yeah, the Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was that mindset shift. So if you haven't read that book, I mean, you got to read that book. There's been a lot. It depends what you want to get into. There's one book called How to Make Big Profits in Small Multifamily Properties, something along those lines. You'll find it if you Google that. That's great. I just think small multifamilies are a great investment for people. A great way to get started. I mean, Valerie, you guys have done some of the, 1, 2, 3, 4 units. That's a residential loan, so just a pretty easy to go get that loan, and small, nice, bite-sized property can make really good cash flow off those. And then you get into those, and you get into 10 and 20 units, and I think as you get into that size, there's not as much competition there because most people that get into real estate kind of stay in single family and maybe duplex, triplex, quad, all those residential ones. But then the really big money, the really big sophisticated investors, they would never mess around with a 20 unit or a 10 unit. So I just think that's a great way. So Big Profits in Small Multifamily Properties, that's a great book. If you want to get into syndication, I read a book by Joe Fairless called The Best Ever Apartment Syndication Book. That's kind of like a textbook on how to get into syndications. I think that's a good one. The Compound Effect, I love that book because it talks so much about how long things take. Like, it takes so long to build momentum. And if you want to get into real estate, that's going to be the case. And if you want to get into syndication, it's definitely going to be the case. If you start today and you say, I want to buy an apartment building, it may be 3 years. But if you know that in 3 years you're going to buy a 100-unit apartment building, it'll change your life, it's worth it to work for it for 3 years. But so many people might do it for 6 months or a year, and they feel like they've done nothing. It's not true. You've built up a ton of momentum, but if you look at your unit count, it's still at 0. And so, and even that way, like Valerie, my story is a perfect example. We started, and I didn't keep up with the years. We did the flip in 2016. We did the duplex in 2007. No, sorry, we did the flip in 2017. We did the duplex in 2018. We sold that duplex. So after 2 years of being in real estate, I own 0 still. Right? We just flipped a couple properties. But then we kept going. And in 2019, we got the 16 unit, 8 unit, and 10 unit. But we sold all of those in 2020. So again, after 3 years, I still own nothing. But I had all this momentum. And then in 2021, we got a 45 unit, a 47 unit, and 96 unit. And so you can see, like, after 1 year, just 1 year, 1 unit. After 2 years, we just had done 2 units. 3 years, we finally got 34 units. And then, the 4th or 5th year, whichever it was, 283 units. So you can see, like, that build up. But even before then, I started, it was like a year before you even got the flip. So love the compound effect for those, because it's just a mindset thing you really have to have if you want to have success in real estate.
Oh yeah, I love that book too. And you're pointing out some excellent concepts. I mean, it takes a long time to get that going and to get that compound effect. But when you think about it, what's your alternative? Work till you're 65 and still only have a fraction of what you would have. So it's like, it's short, but for whatever reason, we expect it to be really, really short. So yeah, I love that you
Yeah,
pointed that
right.
out. What are some of the things that you're focusing on now? What are you going to be working on over the next year or two? Do you have any big goals?
Yeah, I'm really interested now, Valerie, in trying to shift my focus, and maybe virtual assistants come into this, in trying to think like a
Mm.
CEO instead of, for so long, I've just kind of been a solopreneur, and I had a business partner, but he and I both just kind of really thought like solopreneurs, in that it was like, in my mindset too, has just been finding deals. Like, how do I find a deal? So I'm just constantly searching for deals, and then how do I put the deal together? And that's really how my mind has worked for, like 5 years now. Find good deals, work with brokers and find these good deals, and then okay, bring in investors and that's what a syndication is. I find the deal, I find the investors, and I put them together. I can't afford to buy this apartment building. All these investors can put them together. We do the apartment syndication. Okay, now we've got this great deal, and of course we have to operate it. But I've not really thought of thought like a CEO of like, okay, how do I build a business that does this, and how do I get other people to do, the who not how you and I have talked about. How do I put some who's in here that can do some of these pieces, and definitely I've already seen it do it better than me, and start putting these together. So I'm really, if you want to know what books I'm reading now, I'm trying to read books that talk about being a good leader, being a good CEO, thinking like that, leveraging. You've talked a lot about leveraging other people to do some of these tasks, and building a business that looks for properties and looks for investors and puts them together, and puts together great syndications and manages those really well. Building a business that does that, instead of saying, I'm going to go do that. And sure, I'm going to use some people, but it's kind of like this solopreneur mindset and just doing deals mindset. Now I'm trying to think like a
I
CEO.
love that. I love seeing the progression, where you started from, where you've been, where you are, and where you want to go. And that's exciting. It's really
Yeah.
cool to be able to
Yeah,
see
I'm
that
excited.
journey and to be able to see, hey, I can do it too. Other people can do it too. When you kind of look
Oh,
at
sure.
other people's journey, it's really encouraging. So I appreciate that. Well, Lee, I mean, it has
Yeah.
been fantastic having you here. I loved hearing your journey. What is the best way for listeners to get a hold of you?
Sure, just jump on our website. It's threefoldrei.com. That's threefold spelled out THREEFOLD. REI is in realestateinvesting.com. A bunch of stuff there. We've got a free ebook there, 5 Steps to Passive Income for the Full-Time Dad. Got some videos there. You can connect with us through there. I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn, so if you just look up Lee Yoder on LinkedIn, you'll find
All
me.
right, awesome. Well, I appreciate you being here. Thanks for sharing your journey and all the
Yeah.
tips that you've been learning along the way. And I hope you have a fantastic week. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took the time to invest in yourself and to learn with me today. If you're interested in joining a group of like-minded people, I want to personally invite you to our free networking group where you can make connections and build relationships with people who are working together to generate wealth. Just click the link that is included in the show notes, and I hope to see you there.